Once upon a time in a realm where country music flowed like water from a mountain stream and the twang of a banjo echoed through the valleys, there lived a cat unlike any other. This was no ordinary feline. Oh no. This cat was extra special. Why, you ask? Well, just take a look at his majestic fur. It was the color of a setting sun, and his stripes were as intricate as a fiddle player's bow across his face. Two large, luminous amber eyes sparkled with mischief and curiosity. And let's not forget those whiskers. They twitched with every passing thought, sensing the world long before his paws did. You see, this was Whiskers. And Whiskers was about to embark on an extraordinary adventure. Now, Whiskers wasn't your typical village cat. He didn't spend his days chasing mice or napping in sunbeams. No, sir. Whiskers had a thirst for adventure,
a longing for something more than the familiar sights and sounds of his sleepy village.
Every day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cobblestone path outside his house, he would sit there, gazing at the winding road that led beyond the village, dreaming of faraway places. Little did Whiskers know that his dreams were about to come true.
One fateful morning, while Whiskers was busy contemplating the mysteries of the universe,
a rumbling sound echoed through the valley. Startled, he turned his head toward the noise, and what he saw made his heart skip a beat. A giant vehicle, bigger than any he'd ever seen before, was barreling toward him. The vehicle was adorned with flashing lights, and the words "Nashville bound" blared in bold letters across its side. Curiosity got the better of him,
and as if drawn by an invisible force,
Whiskers found himself padding alongside the vehicle as it continued its journey. Inside the vehicle was a group of musicians, each more lively than the last, their voices blending together in a joyous cacophony. As the bus rumbled along, the music grew louder, carrying with it the promise of an exciting adventure. Suddenly, the door to the bus slid open, and a friendly face beckoned to Whiskers. "Well, aren't you just the cutest thing?" she exclaimed, scooping him up in her arms. "You look like you could use some excitement in your life, honey!" And without another word, she settled him down on her lap and closed the door. Before Whiskers knew it, he was on his way to a place called Nashville, a place where music was king and adventure was always around the corner. As the bus pulled into Nashville, Whiskers couldn't believe his eyes. The city bustled with activity, flashes of neon lights, the strum of 1,000 guitars, and the happy chatter of tourists filled the air. Overwhelmed but excited, Whiskers let out a small meow, his amber eyes wide with wonder. This was just the beginning of his adventure. The first stop on Whiskers' Nashville tour was a place called Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. This honky-tonk bar was famous for its live music, and even more famous for its resident bartender, a sassy woman with a heart of gold and a name that suited her perfectly. She took one look at Whiskers and knew he was destined for greatness. "You, my little orange friend, are going to be a star," she declared, giving him a scratch behind the ears. And that's exactly what happened. People flocked to Tootsie's not just for the music or the drinks, but to catch a glimpse of the adorable cat who'd become the bar's unofficial mascot. Soon enough, #Whiskers on Broadway was trending on social media, and Whiskers found himself being interviewed by local reporters and posing for pictures with adoring fans. But Whiskers wasn't just a pretty face. Despite his fame, he remained humble, always eager to lend a paw to those in need. One evening, a young girl approached him, her eyes shining with admiration. "You're Whiskers?" "Right," she asked, holding out her hand for him to sniff. "I love you," Whiskers purred, nuzzling his head against her palm. In that moment, Whiskers knew he wasn't just a cat. He was a symbol of kindness, joy, and the magic that happens when a cat finds his forever home. As the weeks turned into months, Whiskers continued to bring happiness to everyone he met. His story was a testament to the power of kindness and the unexpected adventures that await those who are brave enough to follow their dreams. So if you ever find yourself in Nashville, be sure to visit Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. And who knows, you might just find yourself face to face with a very special orange tabby. Who'll remind you that sometimes the greatest adventures start with just a meow and a dream. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Whiskers found himself standing before a majestic building. The Country Music Hall of Fame and Museum stood proudly before him, its walls adorned with the names of legendary musicians who'd shaped the country music industry. Curiosity sparked in his amber eyes, and he couldn't resist the urge to explore. With a graceful leap, he found himself inside the museum. To his delight, the staff greeted him warmly. Recognizing the star power he brought with him, they led him to a cozy corner where a comfy bed awaited, complete with a selection of toys and a bowl filled with his favorite treats. But Whiskers wasn't interested in napping or snacks. Not today. He wanted to experience everything Nashville had to offer. So the staff, eager to oblige, led him on a tour of the museum. At each exhibit, Whiskers seemed to understand the significance of what he was seeing. He sat patiently as they explained the history of the guitar, its evolution from a simple folk instrument to the icon of country music it had become. He listened intently to stories of the legendary musicians whose names adorned the walls, his whiskers twitching in appreciation. And then he came across an exhibit dedicated to the most influential women in country music. Here, surrounded by the sparkling dresses and awards that symbolized their success, Whiskers felt a surge of inspiration. He may have been just a humble cat, but he realized that anything was possible if you followed your dreams. As the day drew to a close, Whiskers found himself in the museum's gift shop. The staff surprised him with a tiny cowboy hat that fit perfectly on his head, the brim casting an adorable shadow over his inquisitive eyes. And that's when it hit him.
This wasn't just a trip to Nashville. It was a journey of self-discovery, a chance to explore his passions and embrace the unexpected.
Just then, a photographer approached him, his camera ready to capture the perfect shot. With a gentle touch, he coaxed Whiskers into posing beside an old guitar, its strings glinting in the soft light. The resulting photograph was nothing short of magical.
Whiskers looked regal, his fur glowing as if lit from within, his eyes sparkling with wisdom beyond his years.
The next morning, the museum staff woke up to a surprise. The photo taken the previous evening had gone viral. Overnight, Whiskers became a sensation, his image adorning social media platforms worldwide. The attention didn't change Whiskers. He greeted each new visitor with the same grace and charm, always ready for a cuddle or a quick photo op. At night, as the city of Nashville twinkled with lights, Whiskers snuggled into his cozy bed in the museum, content in the knowledge that he'd brought joy to countless hearts. The Country Music Hall of Fame had been more than just a tourist attraction for Whiskers. It had become a place where he found his voice, his place in the world, and perhaps most importantly, a home away from home. As the weeks passed, Whiskers became a regular fixture at the Country Music Hall of Fame. His story intertwined with the rich tapestry of country music, becoming a part of Nashville's vibrant folklore. Then one evening, something truly remarkable happened. The staff surprised Whiskers with tickets to a show at the Grand Ole Opry. This iconic venue had been the stage for countless legends, and now it was preparing to welcome a four-legged guest of honor. From the moment Whiskers stepped into the Opry, he was met with thunderous applause. Musicians stopped mid-performance to shower him with affection, and the audience roared with laughter as he made his way through the crowd. On stage, he basked in the spotlight, his eyes shining with delight as he watched the musicians play. In the wings, someone handed him a tiny microphone, and much to everyone's amusement, he began to meow into it. The sound echoed through the auditorium, and the crowd cheered wildly, as if listening to a symphony conducted by a feline maestro. After the show, the musicians gathered around Whiskers, showering him with compliments and treats. It was a night that celebrated the unexpected, the magical bond between humans and animals, and the unifying power of music. For Whiskers, the Grand Ole Opry wasn't just a performance. It was a testament to his journey, a reminder that dreams, no matter how big, are worth chasing. The following day, Whiskers woke up feeling like the luckiest cat in the world. His adventure in Nashville had exceeded his wildest dreams. He'd been to the Country Music Hall of Fame, performed at the Grand Ole Opry, and made friends with some of the most talented musicians around. But it was time to say goodbye. As he boarded the bus back home, he couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. Nashville had become more than just a city for him. It had become a part of his soul. Then suddenly, something amazing happened. The bus driver, who'd become a friend during Whiskers' adventures, announced that she had a surprise for him. She'd arranged for him to meet with some of the people he'd met during his visit.
Over the next few hours, Whiskers found himself surrounded by familiar faces.
The staff from the Country Music Hall of Fame, the musicians from the Grand Ole Opry,
And even a few fans who'd become regulars at Tootsie's all gathered to bid him farewell.
there were hugs, there were tears, and of course, there were plenty of treats and toys to keep Whiskers' spirits high. In that moment, Whiskers realized that although his time in Nashville was coming to an end, the friendships he'd made would last a lifetime. As the bus pulled away from Nashville, Whiskers sat gazing out the window, his heart filled with gratitude. His adventure had been everything he'd hoped for and more. He'd experienced the magic of music, the warmth of friendship, and the joy of living in the moment. And as the city faded into the distance, he knew that a part of him would always remain in Nashville, the city that had welcomed him with open arms and shown him what it meant to truly live.